The Cat Lady Named Arthur. Part 1. Arthur to Jenffer. By Jenffer J. Chapter 1. Arthur at camp. I know what you are, the girl whispered, pressing her forehead against the bus window. Her breath fogged the glass in uneven bursts. Arthur flinched. He'd spent 17 years perfecting the art of blending in, hoodie sleeves tugged over claw-tipped fingers, baseball cap shadowing the faint stripes along his temples. But this stranger had spotted him immediately. She leaned closer, her oversized camp t-shirt slipping off one shoulder to reveal a jagged scar where her collarbone should have been smooth. Your pupils, she said, tapping her own brown eye. They slit sideways when the light hits them just right. The bus hit a pothole, jostling them together. Arthur caught the scent of her shampoo, something chemical and hospital clean, and beneath it, the unmistakable musk of hormonal injections. His own chest tightened in reflex, the binders digging into tender tissue that never should have swollen this way. He opened his mouth, but she shook her head. Don't bother lying. I've got the same crap genetic roulette. Her laugh was bitter as she yanked at her shirt collar, showing the telltale stretch marks radiating from her sternum. Outside, dusk painted the trees in bruised purples. The girl, Miss J, according to her counselor badge, flicked a worn switchblade open one-handed. Arthur's claws unsheathed instinctively before he saw she was just cleaning dirt from under her nails. Relax, Whiskers. If I wanted to gut you, I'd have done it when you were snoring back at the rest stop. The blade flashed as she scraped at a cuticle. You're lucky it's me who spotted you. The others. She jerked her chin toward the gaggle of campers up front, would have thrown you out the emergency exit by now. Arthur exhaled through his nose, catching the metallic tang of old blood on her knife. Something about how she held it, too practiced, made his tail puff under his jeans. Why help me? Miss J snapped the blade shut with a click that echoed in the sudden quiet of the bus. Up front, the driver killed the overhead lights, plunging them into the orange glow of emergency strips along the floor. Because, she said, rolling her shoulders until her binder creaked, tomorrow morning, when those jackasses try to pants me in the lake again, I want someone who can scratch their eyes out faster than I can. Her grin showed too many teeth. And let's be real, you're the only one here who won't puke seeing this. She grabbed Arthur's wrist and slammed his palm against her chest before he could react. The camp office smelled like pine disinfectant and the kind of industrial carpet that hid decades of vomit. Behind the counter, a man built like a retired linebacker, Mr. J, going by the peeling name tag, folded his daughter into a hug that made her boots leave the ground. Third summer running, huh? He ruffled her cropped hair. Gonna tell me why you really stole the acceptance letters this year? Miss J jerked her thumb at Arthur. He's got XXY chromosomes. Like me. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Arthur expected disgust. Instead, Mr. J's eyes crinkled. Same cabin, then. Rule 1, no mauling the other campers unless they deserve it. He tossed Arthur a curing heavy enough to stun a bear. The cookhouse smelled of burnt hot dogs and something sharper beneath. Arthur's nose twitched at the scent before Miss J elbowed him. Don't. Her whisper carried the weight of experience. They'll spike the lactose-free stuff first. She slid him a dented thermos from her backpack. Arthur unscrewed the cap. The liquid was 100% good old water, but he hesitated, sniffing. Miss J rolled her eyes and snatched the thermos back, taking a pointed gulp. See? Not poisoned. Yet. She wiped her mouth. But watch the mashed potatoes. Last year, someone slipped estrogen enhancers into. The dinner bell clanged. The cookhouse erupted in a stampede of sneakers. Arthur's claws dug into the bench as elbows flew, until Miss J vaulted the table and body-checked a freckled kid reaching for the serving spoon. Lactose-intolerant line first, she growled, tailbone pressing against Arthur's shoulder. The kid backed off, muttering about freaks. Miss J ladled double portions onto Arthur's tray with surgical precision. Eat fast. They'll try to swap our plates. Arthur poked at the suspiciously orange mashed potatoes. Are you joking? His whisper came out strangled. You're telling me they, dose people here? Miss J snorted, shoveling a heaping forkful into her mouth. Only the rich kids. She chewed deliberately, watching the table where the freckled kid and his cronies sat picking at their food. Because Daddy Dearest doesn't allow it. Her smirk was razor-edged. But if they find out about this, she jabbed her fork at her own chest, where her binder strained against sudden, unsubtle curves. The motion made her camp t-shirt gape, revealing a stretch mark lightning bolt across her collarbone. Or that, the fork swung to Arthur's twitching ears, now fully furred after the bus ride. Welcome to the titty committee, Whiskers. Arthur choked on a potato chunk. The spice hit his tongue, not paprika, but something chemical, metallic. His vision blurred at the edges. Across the table, Miss J's pupils dilated until her irises were just thin gold rings. Oh fuck, she breathed, gripping the table as her shoulders spasmed. Her binder strap snapped with audible pings. The freckled kid hooped, but his laughter cut off when Miss J's spine arched violently, her head thumping against Arthur's shoulder. Her hair, cropped military short this morning, brushed his cheek, now longer. Silkier. Arthur's own scalp prickled as his tabby stripes darkened, his claws splitting through his fingernails with wet snick-s. So this camp is full of chemists? Arthur wheezed, his voice pitching higher, smoother. His jeans grew taut across suddenly wider hips. Miss J's answering laugh was breathless, her fingers scrabbling at her collapsing binder as fabric split along the seams. Oh sweetheart, she gasped, her collarbones popping audibly as her shoulders narrowed, you think this is chemistry? Her shirt rode up, revealing a waist cinching inward like melted wax reforming. The freckled kid's tray clattered to the floor as Miss J's breasts swelled against the remains of her t-shirt, buttons pinging off like shrapnel. Arthur's tail puffed, his own hips grinding against the mattress as another wave of heat rolled through him. His new curves pressed into the sheets with embarrassing sensitivity, every brush of fabric sending sparks up his spine. But, his protest dissolved into a moan as his chest surged outward again, nipples pebbling against the remains of his shirt. Somewhere beneath the hormonal haze, a memory surfaced, the social worker's unusual insistence on that specific summer camp, the way she'd tapped her pen against Arthur's medical files. Miss J's clawed fingers carted through her own suddenly luxurious mane, her grin widening as Arthur's ears flattened against his skull. Oh, don't give me that look, she purred, rolling onto her side with a wet schluck of flesh rearranging. Her breasts sloshed against each other, the sound obscenely liquid. You think foster kids with your condition just happen to get placed near Dad's research hospital? Her tail, long and red-brown, twitched like a metronome. We're rare, Whiskers. You and me? There's maybe 12 of us worldwide. Having two here is like. Her canines gleamed as she stretched, her spine popping audibly. Winning two different lotteries at the same time. Arthur's own tail lashed as his hips rolled without permission, the new weight there shifting in a way that made his breath hitch. The cabin air smelled of musk and crushed pine needles, his own scent changing by the second. So your dad. His voice cracked again, the purr underneath thickening. He tracked me? Miss J's answering laugh was breathless as she rolled onto her stomach, her breast spilling over the bunk's edge with a wet schlep. No, dumbass, she wheezed, claws digging into the mattress as another growth spurt hit. Her spine arched obscenely, ribs visibly shifting under sweat-slick skin. He wanted me to have. She gasped, her collarbones popping inward like a corset being cinched. Someone who gets it. So I wouldn't. Her voice broke as her pelvis tilted forward with an audible creak, the sound of cartilage reforming. Grow up fucking lonely. Arthur's claws pricked his palms as the truth hit, his foster placements, the scholarship forms, even the bus ticket all clicked into place like tumblers in a lock. Across the cabin, Miss J's reflection warped in the sweat-streaked mirror, her shoulders narrowing, hips flaring wider with every shuddering breath. The bunk groaned under her shifting weight, the wood splintering where her claws dug in. No, Miss J gasped, her voice ricocheting between octaves as her Adam's apple melted completely. Her newly elongated tongue flicked over sharpened canines. Dad didn't collect you like some fucking trading card. Her spine popped violently as she arched off the mattress, breasts swaying like pendulums. He wanted me to have. A wet crack cut her off as her pelvis realigned. Asterisk someone who gets it asterisk so I wouldn't. Her claws shredded the sheets. Grow up fucking lonely. Dawn painted the cabin in feverish oranges when Arthur awoke to Miss J straddling his hips, her breasts pressing against his chest with suffocating warmth. Her breath smelled of mint and something metallic as she hissed, "Get dressed. Dad's pissed." The mirror showed twin disasters, Miss J's waist cinched tighter than a corset, her breasts straining against a stolen counselor's polo, Arthur's own chest heaved under a stretched too thin tank top, his tabby stripes now wrapping around curves that hadn't existed yesterday. Mr. J's office reeked of gun oil and burnt coffee. He didn't look up from the security monitors as they shuffled in, Arthur's new hips making his gait awkward, Miss J's claws snagging the carpet with every step. "Sit," he growled, tossing a Z-cup sports bra at Arthur's head. "Before you give the janitor a heart attack." The screens flickered with grainy footage of the cookhouse, the freckled kid slipping something into the mashed potatoes, his grin sharp under the fluorescence. Miss J collapsed into a chair that groaned under her new weight. "Spill, Dad." Her voice had settled overnight into something husky and liquid, but the command in it made Arthur's tail puff. Mr. J tapped a key, the monitors zoomed in on the freckled kid's wrist. A tattoo peeked from under his cuff, a twisted pine tree inside a circle. "Silver Lake Camp's logo," he growled. "Their director sued me when I banned hormone pranks last summer." His knuckles cracked around a coffee mug. "Annually Camp Road Clean starts in 48 hours. Every cabin competes. Guess who's judging this year?" Miss J's claws sank into the armrests, her breasts pressing against the desk as she leaned forward. "That's when they'll hit us," she hissed. Arthur's tail lashed, his own chest heaved against the borrowed bra's suffocating embrace. Mr. J's gaze lingered on Arthur's twitching ears. "Silver Lake specializes in corrective treatments for intersex kids." He spat into the trash can. "Their head nurse testified against my medical license last year." The office clock ticked loudly. Arthur's nipples chafed against the bra's reinforced lining, too tight where the cup strained against sudden ZZ cup curves. Miss J's laughter was razor-edged. "So the road clean's a trap?" She stretched, making her stolen polo right up over newly narrowed waist. "Perfect. I've been itching to claw someone's eyes out since breakfast." Mr. J slammed a fist on the desk, coffee sloshed over surveillance tapes marked Silver Lake. "Proof's in their pantry," he growled. 2 crates of synthetic estrogen labeled maple syrup. His glare flicked to Arthur's twitching tail, now curling possessively around Miss J's ankle. "They've been dosing kids like you for years. But you too?" His grin showed too many teeth. Their little prank backfired spectacularly. Miss J's claws unsheathed with audible snicks, shredding the upholstery. "Road cleans, eh?" "Set up," she purred, her voice honey-thick now. She stretched, making her stolen polo strain across breasts that had outgrown the fabric overnight. "They'll ambush us where the pines are thickest." Her tongue, longer now, pink and pointed, flicked out to catch a droplet of coffee from her father's mug. Arthur's tail lashed as he clawed at the suffocating sports bra. "No," he rasped, his voice settling into something feline and low. His pupils dilated, vertical slits swallowing gold irises. "Use me. Been finding cans all my life, keepin' alive dumpster diving." The words came out half-growled, his new curves shifting under the bra's constriction. "I can sniff out traps better than any human. Places they can't or won't go." His claws pricked his own thighs through the ruined jeans. "We'll win this." Miss J's nostrils flared, Arthur caught the exact moment she smelled it too, the pine needle musk of his certainty. Her claw tapped the desk, leaving crescent moons in the wood. "Whiskers has a point," she purred, her hips rolling as she stretched. The stolen polo split further at the seams, revealing stretch marks like tiger stripes across her ribs. "Silver Lake's brats won't expect this." She flicked a claw at Arthur's twitching ears, now rotating like radar dishes. Arthur's tail thumped against the floorboards, he could already taste the trap locations, layered under cafeteria grease and adolescent sweat. His new breasts ached under the bra's constriction, but the discomfort sharpened his focus. "They'll hide doses near markers," he rasped, the words curling with a feral confidence that made Mr. J's eyebrow twitch. "Blue paint on trees. Broken branches at shin height." His claws flexed, pricking his own thighs through the torn jeans. I've sniffed out meal vouchers and dumpsters behind meth labs. This? His laugh came out a cough growl. Kitten play. Miss J's nostrils flared, she smelled it now too, the shift in Arthur's pheromones from panic to predator. Her claw traced a damp ring on the desk where her father's coffee had sloshed. Whiskers can map a whole grid by piss posts, she purred, rolling her shoulders until her stolen polo split further at the seams. The motion made her breast sway dangerously close to knocking over a monitor. Silver Lake brats won't expect that kind of nose. Arthur's tail lashed as he clawed off the suffocating bra with a snarl. The office air prickled against newly exposed skin, his nipples pebbled instantly under the scrutiny of hidden cameras. Grew up tracing dumpster routes, he growled, his voice settling into something low and liquid. His pupils dilated until only thin gold rings remained. Know where kids think they're clever. His claws flexed against his thighs, pricking through denim. Blue spray paint under pines. Broken branches at shin height. Always the same patterns. Miss J's answering grin showed her teeth. She stretched, making her stolen polo ride up over stretch-marked ribs. Teach me, she demanded, her voice honey-thick with something that wasn't entirely humor. Her claw traced a damp ring on the desk, coffee or saliva, Arthur couldn't tell. Arthur's tail lashed. He rolled onto all fours, instinct driving the motion before thought could catch up, and pressed his nose to the office carpet. The fibers smelled of gunpowder and something acrid beneath the lemon-scented cleaner. Humans think in grids, he murmured, his whiskers twitching against the floorboards. But cats, his claws unsheathed, pricking the industrial pile. We map by scent posts and piss markers. He inhaled sharply, catching the ghost of Silver Lake's pine needle soap under the bleach. Miss J's shadow fell across him as she crouched, her breasts pressing against his back with distracting warmth. Show me, she breathed, not a request. Her claws sank into his shoulder, drawing pinpricks of blood that bloomed rust-scented in Arthur's nostrils. Arthur inhaled deeper, letting the office smells separate into layers, gun oil and coffee grounds masking something sharper beneath. Grew up tracing dumpster routes by broken glass reflections, he murmured, his whiskers twitching against a floorboard seam. His tongue darted out, just a flick, tasting the metallic tang of Silver Lake surveillance equipment. Kids hide things where light hits wrong. Make shiny things wink. His claws scraped a phantom trail through the carpet pile. Like aluminum cans at sunset. Miss J's breath hitched behind him, her newly developed breasts pressing warm against his spine. You mapped trash? Her voice dripped with disbelief, but her claws dug in deeper, anchoring him. Arthur's whiskers twitched against the dusty floorboards. The scent memory hit him like a gut punch, rotting bananas behind the 7-Eleven, the chemical tang of spoiled milk in summer heat, his own ribs pressing sharp against stolen newspaper bedding. Had to, he rasped, the words curling around something feral in his throat. His tail lashed against her shin. No foster home kept cat kids past puberty. The office air smelled suddenly thick with gun oil and shame. Miss J's claws retracted slightly, not releasing, but softening. Arthur felt the exact moment her breath caught, her chest rising against his spine in a way that made his new curves press uncomfortably against the floor. Dad's file said you were. Her voice fractured around the word. Abandoned at the clinic. Arthur's whiskers flattened against his cheeks. The office carpet fibers scratched his nose, smelling suddenly of childhood antiseptic and the stale crackers nurses slipped him when no one was looking. They called it failure to thrive, he muttered, tail twitching. His tongue darted out, just a flick, tasting the memory of Ensure bottles stolen from supply carts. Cat hybrids metabolize faster. Needed. His stomach growled audibly, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. Double rations. But foster forms only had one checkbox for human. Miss J's breath hitched behind him. Her claws retracted completely, leaving crescent moons of warmth on his shoulders. The office smelled abruptly of salt, her tears hitting his fur in fat, hot drops. You lived in dumpsters? Her voice cracked like a kitten's. Arthur's tail lashed, thumping against her shin. His claws flexed against the carpet, shredding fibers. Best ones were behind bakeries, he rasped, the words scraping out of him like something feral dragged into light. Day-olds and wax paper. didn't make me shit blood like McDonald's. The admission tasted of moldy danishes and shame, bitter on his tongue. Miss J's breath hit his spine in short bursts, her tears making damp patches where his fur flattened under the weight. Arthur's own chest heaved against the floorboards, his new breasts pressing uncomfortably into the industrial pile. He could smell her pity now, cloying and thick like syrup. "Don't," he growled, tail lashing against her shin. His claws flexed, shredding more carpet fibers. "Wasn't your fault." The words tasted like half-rotted peaches stolen from a Chinatown dumpster, the sweetness of her concern curdling in his mouth. His stomach growled again, louder this time, a visceral reminder of years spent mapping trash routes by the ache in his gut. Had to learn which convenience stores threw out hot dogs before midnight. Which ones hosed their bins with bleach. Miss J's breath hitched wetly behind him. Her tears dripped onto his spine, warm as fresh piss on winter concrete. Arthur remembered crouching behind a laundromat at 14, his ribs sharp under fur matted with fryer grease, watching stray cats lick at discarded chicken bones with more dignity than he could muster. "You stole hot dogs?" Her voice cracked on the last word, not judgment, but something worse, realization dawning like sunrise over dumpsters. Arthur's tail lashed against her knee. He could smell the exact moment her rich girl brain short-circuited trying to reconcile silverware place settings with raccoon-style midnight raids. Miss J's claws sank into his shoulders again, not anchoring this time, but clutching like he might dissolve into the carpet fibers. Her breath hit his spine in short, wet bursts. She choked on the admission, her newly developed breasts pressing almost painfully against his back. *fuck star. I threw away whole trays of canapes at Dad's galas. Her voice curdled with something between horror and hysterical laughter. Could have fed you for a year. Arthur's tail lashed, thumping against her shin. His claws flexed against the carpet, shredding more fibers. Wouldn't have taken it, he muttered, the words scraping out like something feral dragged into light. His whiskers flattened against his cheeks. Rich people food makes me shit weird. The admission tasted like stolen caviar samples from a hotel dumpster, the memory of 3 days spent vomiting behind a chili sharp in his nostrils. Miss J's breath hit his spine in short, wet bursts. Her tears dripped onto his fur, warm as fresh piss on winter concrete. Her voice fractured around the word, claws retracting slightly. *fuck star. I can't, she choked on the next syllable, her newly developed breasts pressing almost painfully against his back. Find the word star. Me, a rich girl with diamond earrings bigger than your foster home's toilet. Her laugh came out jagged, edged with something too raw to be humor. And you were eating bleach-soaked hot dogs while I threw out truffle risotto because the caterer used the wrong fucking spoon. Arthur's tail lashed against her knee. His claws flexed against the carpet fibers, shredding them methodically. Wasn't your fault, he muttered again, whiskers twitching. The office air smelled suddenly of salt and spoiled milk, her tears mixing with the memory of dumpster-soured dairy. Rich people don't think about trash. That's the point. Miss J's claws retracted completely, leaving crescent moons in his shoulders that throbbed in time with his heartbeat. She slumped forward, her breasts pressing warm and heavy against his spine. Her breath hitched wetly against his fur. Her voice cracked like a dropped champagne flute. *fuck star. I didn't, her newly elongated tongue flicked out, catching a tear before it could drip onto his tabby stripes. *no star. About the bleach bins. Her voice fractured around the word. *blood shit star. Arthur's tail lashed, thumping against her knee. His claws flexed against the carpet fibers, shredding them methodically. The office smelled suddenly of salt and spoiled milk, her tears mixing with the memory of dumpster-soured dairy. Wasn't your job to know, he muttered, whiskers twitching. His tongue darted out, just a flick, tasting the metallic tang of Silver Lake surveillance equipment beneath her saltwater grief. Rich people don't think about trash. That's the whole fucking point. Miss J's claws sank into his shoulders again, not anchoring this time, but clutching like he might dissolve into the carpet fibers. Her breath hit his spine in short, wet bursts. She choked on the admission, her newly developed breasts pressing almost painfully against his back. Asterisk fuck star. I threw away whole trays of canapes at Dad's galas. Her voice curdled with something between horror and hysterical laughter. Could have fed you for a year. Emotional catharsis despite their uncomfortable physical proximity and shared transformation discomfort. Arthur's tail lashed, thumping against her shin. His claws flexed against the carpet, shredding more fibers. Wouldn't have taken it, he muttered, the words scraping out like something feral dragged into light. His whiskers flattened against his cheeks. Rich people food makes me shit weird. The admission tasted like stolen caviar samples from a hotel dumpster, the memory of 3 days spent vomiting behind a chili sharp in his nostrils. Miss J's breath hitched wetly behind him. Her claws dug into his shoulders, not painfully, but with a desperation that made his fur prickle. Oh my God, she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. Now I know why Dad got you here. Her breasts pressed heavily against his spine as she leaned closer, her breath hot and uneven against his ear. Asterisk to ground me star. To remind me what's real in this world. Arthur's tail stiffened. The office carpet fibers scratched his nose, smelling suddenly of gun oil and childhood antiseptic. He remembered the first time he'd stolen a whole pizza, how the grease had dripped down his wrists like liquid gold, how his stomach had cramped violently 2 hours later from the unfamiliar richness. Rich people don't think about trash, he repeated softly, his whiskers twitching against the floorboards. But cats? We live in it. Mr. J's polished loafers entered Arthur's downward vision. The leather creaked as he crouched, his aftershave cutting through the scent of tears and carpet cleaner. Kid, he rumbled, voice thick with something Arthur couldn't name, I brought you here 'cause Miss J needed someone who understands. His knuckles cracked, not in anger, but hesitation. Didn't realize I was getting a goddamn survival expert. Arthur's tail lashed against Miss J's shin. The office air smelled suddenly of gunpowder and wet fur. His whiskers twitched against the floorboards, Mr. J's pulse throbbed visibly in his throat, erratic as a cornered rabbit's. Friend? Arthur rasped, the word curling around something feral in his throat. His claws flexed against the shredded carpet fibers. The memory of bleach-soaked dumpster bread rose bitter in his sinuses. You set up foster placements near endocrine clinics. His tail thumped hard enough to bruise Miss J's knee. Tracked me through 3 group homes. Paid social workers too. Mr. J's hand landed heavy on his shoulder, not gripping, just resting, warm as a baker's dumpster lid in July. Damn right I did, he growled, his thumb pressing against Arthur's twitching whiskers. You think Miss J had anyone who understood? His pulse throbbed visibly in his throat, erratic as a cornered rabbit's. Not about the tits. He waved vaguely at their swollen chests. About waking up in a body that ain't yours. Miss J's claws pricked Arthur's spine, not painfully, just present. Her breath hitched wetly against his fur. Asterisk dad asterisk, she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice over dumpster puddles. Mr. J exhaled sharply through his nose, his aftershave smelling suddenly of bourbon and regret. Damn it, kitten, he muttered, not to his daughter, but to Arthur. His thumb brushed Arthur's twitching whiskers with surprising gentleness. Didn't bring you here to play pity poker. The office chair groaned as he slumped into it, his tailored suit straining across shoulders suddenly too human, too frail. Silver Lake's coming at us with hormone cocktails and your... His polished loafer scuffed the shredded carpet. Christ. You're teaching my princess about dumpster routes. Miss J's claws retracted from Arthur's spine with audible snicks. Her breasts pressed warm and heavy against his back as she leaned over him, not caging, just present. Her newly elongated tongue flicked out, catching a tear before it could drip onto his tabby stripes. Asterisk dad asterisk, she repeated, her voice honey-thick now but cracking at the edges. He's not. Her claws flexed in the air above Arthur's shoulders. Teaching me. He's, her breath hitched, warm against Arthur's twitching ears. Asterisk showing asterisk me. Mr. J's polished loafers creaked as he shifted his weight. The office smelled suddenly of bourbon and gun oil, his aftershave mixing with the metallic tang of Silver Lake surveillance equipment. Damn it, kitten, he muttered, not to Miss J, but to Arthur. His thumb brushed Arthur's twitching whiskers again, gentler than any foster parent had ever touched him. Didn't bring you here to play pity poker. The chair groaned under his weight as he slumped into it, his tailored suit straining across shoulders suddenly too human, too frail. Silver Lake's coming at us with hormone cocktails and your... His polished loafers scuffed the shredded carpet. Christ. You're teaching my princess about dumpster routes. Miss J's breath hitched against Arthur's spine, warm and damp through his fur. Her claws flexed above his shoulders, not touching, but hovering like she couldn't decide between grounding him or tearing apart the office. Dad, she whispered again, her voice cracking like thin ice over dumpster puddles. He's not. Her newly elongated tongue flicked out, catching a tear before it could drip onto Arthur's tabby stripes. Teaching me. Her breasts pressed heavy against his back as she leaned closer, her voice dropping to something raw and private. Showing me. Mr. J's polished loafers creaked as he shifted his weight. The office smelled suddenly of bourbon and gun oil, his aftershave mixing with the metallic tang of Silver Lake surveillance equipment. Damn it, kitten, he muttered, not to Miss J, but to Arthur. His thumb brushed Arthur's twitching whiskers again, gentler than any foster parent had ever touched him. Didn't bring you here to play pity poker. The chair groaned under his weight as he slumped into it, his tailored suit straining across shoulders suddenly too human, too frail. Silver Lake's coming at us with hormone cocktails and your... His polished loafers scuffed the shredded carpet. Christ. You're teaching my princess about dumpster routes. Miss J's breath hitched against Arthur's spine, warm and damp through his fur. Her claws flexed above his shoulders, not touching, but hovering like she couldn't decide between grounding him or tearing apart the office. Dad, she whispered again, her voice cracking like thin ice over dumpster puddles. He's not. Her newly elongated tongue flicked out, catching a tear before it could drip onto Arthur's tabby stripes. Teaching me. Her breasts pressed heavy against his back as she leaned closer, her voice dropping to something raw and private. Showing me. Arthur's tail stiffened as Mr. J's polished loafers creaked, the scent of bourbon and gun oil thickening between them. The older man's thumb still rested against Arthur's whiskers, calloused but gentle in a way that made his feline instincts war with years of foster home wariness. Silver Lake's coming, Arthur rasped, his claws flexing against the shredded carpet. The words tasted like stolen jerky from a gas station dumpster, salty and desperate. They're ambush points. His nose twitched, catching the pine needle soap again. All predictable. Human predictable. Miss J's breath hitched against his spine, her newly elongated claws pricking the air above his shoulders. Show me, she demanded, her voice dropping into something low and feral that Arthur recognized, the same tone he'd used when sizing up alley cats over moldy bagels. Arthur's whiskers twitched violently. The scent map unfolded behind his eyelids, Silver Lake surveillance teams moving like clockwork through predictable human patterns. His tail lashed against Miss J's shin as he rolled abruptly, pinning her beneath him with a feline twist that made her gasp. Her breasts pressed warm and yielding against his chest, but it was the sudden dilation of her pupils that held him, predatory interest sparking where pity had been. Listen, he hissed, ears flattening against his skull as the camp loudspeakers crackled to life outside. The metallic tang of Silver Lake's sabotage equipment bled through the morning dew, too sharp, too chemical against the pine needle backdrop. Arthur's claws flexed against Miss J's wrists, not hard enough to break skin, but enough to make her pull sleep under his pads. Road cleanups bait. Their ambush teams move in threes, always near trash cans. His nose wrinkled at the memory of bleach-soaked dumpsters. Human hiding spots. Miss J's breath hitched beneath him, her newly elongated claws pricking his forearms in erratic patterns. The office clock ticked loud as a countdown, 8:47 a.m., 33 minutes until mandatory assembly. Arthur's tail lashed against her thigh as she suddenly bucked beneath him, her transformed body stronger than either expected. Her breasts pressed flush against his ribs as she flipped their positions with a snarl that would have made alley cats proud. Show me properly, she demanded, her voice dripping with the same feral hunger Arthur remembered from staring down cold chicken wings behind KFC's. Her pupils swallowed the gold of her irises whole. Arthur's whiskers twitched violently against her collarbone. The scent map burned behind his eyelids. Silver Lake's sabotage teams always clustered near maintenance sheds, their hormone cocktails reeking of clinical sterility beneath pine disinfectant. He rolled them sideways in one fluid motion, his tail whipping out to stabilize as they crashed against Mr. J's overturned chair. East Service Road, he rasped against Miss J's jugular, tasting the adrenaline souring her sweat. 3 trash cans formed perfect sightlines to the med tent. His claws flexed against her hips, shredding fabric to reveal skin already prickling with predatory awareness. Human predictable. Miss J's answering growl vibrated through his chest. Her elongated claws scored the floorboards as she arched beneath him, not submission, but testing leverage points like Arthur had taught her against dumpster lids. The camp loudspeaker screeched feedback, 27 minutes until assembly. Arthur's ears flattened at the sound, his pupils slitting against the sudden glare of sunrise through broken blinds. Miss J's breasts heaved against him, warm and heavy with unnatural growth, but her breath came in controlled bursts now, measured like he'd shown her when stalking alley rats. The office door slammed open without warning. Both their heads snapped toward the silhouette framed in daylight, some Silver Lake punk with a hormone-spiked juice box already leaking purple liquid down his wrist. Arthur's nostrils flared at the saccharine stench of tampered sucrose, his tail lashing instinctively to shield Miss J's exposed stomach. The intruder's eyes widened at their tangled, half-shredded forms. Jesus ! He choked out, backing into the doorframe. They said you were freaks, but... Miss J moved faster than Arthur expected. Her transformed body twisted beneath him with unnatural flexibility, her elongated claws hooking into the juice box midair as the kid panicked and threw it. Purple splattered across her forearm instead of Arthur's face, sizzling against her skin with the telltale reek of synthetic estrogen. She didn't even flinch. Dad, she barked over her shoulder, her voice layered with something feral Arthur had only heard in Starving Strays. He's early star. Mr. J was already moving, not toward the door, but to the filing cabinet where Arthur smelled gun oil. The Silver Lake kid stumbled backward, his sneakers squeaking against the floorboards. Arthur's tail lashed, counting seconds by the kid's panicked pulse. 17 minutes until assembly. 17 minutes until Silver Lake's main force would be positioned along the East Service Road where 3 trash cans formed perfect sightlines to. Miss J twisted beneath him, her elongated claws hooking into the kid's collar. The scent map burned behind Arthur's eyelids, bleach, adrenaline, and the saccharine rod of tampered juice soaking into the carpet. The kid gasped as Miss J dragged him closer, her transformed body radiating heat like a dumpster fire in August. Who's early, she growled, her voice layered with something feral Arthur had only heard in alley cats cornering rats. Talk. Fast. The kid's sneakers squeaked against the floorboards. Arthur's tail lashed, counting seconds by the staccato rhythm of the boy's panicked pulse. 17 minutes until assembly. 17 minutes until Silver Lake's main force would be positioned along the East Service Road, right where Arthur had predicted. The kid's throat bobbed against Miss J's claws. Not just road cleanup, he choked out. Sweat dripped from his temple, smelling of cheap deodorant and fear. They moved up the presentation. His eyes darted toward the broken window. All teams redeploying to the mess hall in 10. Mr. J's gun oil scent sharpened behind them. The filing cabinet drawer slid shut with a metallic snick. Christ, he muttered, not to the kid, but to the polished watch strapped to his wrist. The face reflected in Arthur's slit pupils, 8:53 a.m. 12 minutes until Silver Lake's ambush would detonate prematurely. Arthur's claws flexed against Miss J's hip, not painfully, but purposefully. His whiskers twitched against her collarbone, transmitting coordinates through touch alone. East Service Road. 3 trash cans. Now, Miss J moved before the kid could blink. Her transformed muscles coiled beneath Arthur's weight, launching them both upright in a tangle of limbs and shredded fabric. The Silver Lake boy's collar tore in her claws as she discarded him like rotten fruit. Arthur hit the floorboards in a crouch, his tail lashing behind him like a metronome counting down the seconds. The office air smelled suddenly of gunpowder and spoiled juice, Mr. J's polished loafers already crossing the threshold toward the East Service Road. Arthur's claws clicked against the floorboards as he sprang after Miss J, her elongated silhouette cutting through the morning haze outside. The camp unfolded in his heightened senses, pine needles crushed underfoot, the chemical reek of Silver Lake sabotage teams moving into position, the damp sweat of terrified campers herded toward the mess hall. His nostrils flared at the 3 trash cans lining the service road, their plastic lids slightly ajar like mouths waiting to spew poison. "They're not playing fair this year," Miss J snarled, her transformed vocal cords layering feline raspiness over aristocratic diction. Her claws flexed against Arthur's wrist, not restraining, but synchronizing their pulse rates into a single predatory rhythm. The scent map burned behind Arthur's eyelids, Silver Lake's ambush teams clustered behind maintenance sheds, their hormone cocktails sweating through cheap plastic syringes. Arthur's tail lashed against her thigh, once, twice, counting down the seconds until synchronized movement. The East Service Road stretched before them, morning dew evaporating off 3 strategically placed trash cans that reeked of tampered food containers. Miss J's breasts pressed against his back as she crouched behind him, her breath hot and uneven against his twitching ears. Dad's looping around the mess hall, she whispered, her elongated tongue flicking out to taste Silver Lake sabotage team's nervous sweat on the breeze. A rusted dumpster lid clanged in the distance. Arthur's pupils narrowed to slits as he catalogued the sounds, 4 pairs of sneakers squeaking against damp pavement, the plastic crinkle of juice pouches being passed between hands, the metallic click of a safety being thumbed off behind maintenance shed C. His whiskers twitched violently. Not just hormone cocktails, he rasped, claws flexing against cracked asphalt. The scent burnt his nostrils, sharp and chemical beneath the saccharine rot. They brought tranks. Miss J's elongated tongue flicked out, tasting the air beside his twitching ears. Her breasts pressed warm and heavy against his spine as she shifted, not crowding, just calibrating. Let them have the road, she murmured, her voice layered with feral amusement. Her claws traced the ridge of his shoulder blade, mapping the terrain behind them. All they did was find places along the road that looked messy, under bushes, in creeks. Her breath hitched as Arthur's tail lashed against her thigh. We work behind to what they missed. Arthur's claws flexed against the asphalt, leaving crescent moons in the tar. The scent map burned behind his eyelids, Silver Lake's ambush teams clustered like pigeons around breadcrumbs, their trank guns gleaming dully in the morning haze. His whiskers twitched at the 3 trash cans they'd so obviously staged along the service road. Lazy, he rasped, tail lashing in sync with Miss J's pulse against his back. They want us to circle those cans. Waste time sniffing bait. His claws dug deeper, shredding blacktop like foster home mattresses. We go where they didn't bother hiding, right under the mess hall. Miss J's elongated tongue flicked out against his ear, approval tasting of iron and adrenaline. Her breasts pressed warmer against his spine as she leaned into his hunch, her claws tracing the map his instincts were drawing in the air between them. Their ambush points reek of bleach and new plastic, she murmured, her voice layered with aristocratic amusement. Ours smell like. Her nostrils flared, catching the same stench Arthur had clocked, moldy potatoes and grease traps. Actual garbage. Arthur's tail lashed once, sharp as a knife through the tension. The East Service Road stretched before them, morning dew glinting off Silver Lake's stupidly obvious trash can traps. But beneath the mess hall's sagging floorboards, the scent map burned brighter, unguarded access points where the earth dipped into forgotten crawlspaces, reeking of rat nests and generations of spilled chili. Let their laziness work for us, Arthur rasped, his claws flexing against damp soil already crumbling under his touch. His whiskers twitched at the 3 pristine trash cans Silver Lake had so carefully staged, freshly scrubbed, reeking of bleach, practically screaming trap here. But 20 yards east, where the service road dissolved into overgrown blackberry brambles, the scent trail went feral, moldering food waste, rusted cans, and the musky stink of feral cats marking territory. Actual garbage. They'll think this was our show. Arthur's pupils narrowed to slits as Miss J's breath hitched against his twitching ears. But we're not just doing this better. Miss J's elongated claws traced the ridge of his spine, not questioning, just recalibrating. Her breasts pressed warm and yielding against his back as she inhaled the rancid perfume of unguarded dumpsters. Silver Lake's trained teams had clustered around their pretty little bait cans like show ponies at a county fair, but here, where the earth sloped into a forgotten drainage ditch, the air smelled of generations of spilled kitchen grease and something darker. They swept the road, she murmured, her tongue flicking out to taste the iron tang of old blood in the soil. We take the gutter. Arthur's tail lashed against her thigh, once, sharp as a switchblade. His claws flexed against the damp clay, carving channels deeper than any human fingernail could reach. The scent map burned behind his eyelids, 3 pristine trash cans upwind, reeking of bleach and corporate sabotage, while beneath the mess hall's sagging floorboards, the earth exhaled the musk of feral cats and decades of stolen camp desserts. Lazy asterisk, he rasped again, the word curling like smoke from a dumpster fire. His whiskers twitched at the vibration of heavy boots circling the bait cans, Silver Lake's trained teams moving in perfect, predictable formation. Their shows clean. Ours, his claws sank deeper, unearthing a rusted soup can vibrating with the footsteps above. Stinks star dot. Miss J's elongated tongue flicked out, tasting the rancid air between them. Her claws traced the soup can's jagged edge, not recoiling from the decay, but measuring its potential. Beneath them, the soil pulsed with the muffled thuds of Silver Lake's distraction teams stomping their scripted patrol routes. Arthur's ears flattened at the sound, rhythmic as a factory conveyor belt, stupid as pigeons. Following breadcrumbs. Watch, he hissed, dragging a claw through the clay to expose tangled roots matted with food wrappers. The stench bloomed between them, sour milk, congealed grease, the iron bite of something older. Miss J's nostrils flared, not in disgust, but calculation. Her breasts pressed warm against his spine as she leaned into the revelation. The soup can trembled in Arthur's grip, vibrating with each heavy footfall from the road above. He rotated it slowly, letting dawnlight glint off the corroded Camp Silver Lake 1998 logo now half buried in the dirt. Miss J's breath hitched, not at the relic, but at the network of rodent tunnels radiating from its burial site. Their sweep teams never kneel, Arthur rasped, claws sinking into the soft earth where generations of raccoons had undermined the mess hall's foundation. Busy playing soldiers to check ankles for bite marks. His tail lashed against her thigh as the first trank gun clicked above them, right on schedule, right by the third bait can.